What's up, Flip Factor family? This is Michael Green with the Flip Factor Podcast, the #1 podcast dedicated to teaching you how to find and win high-profit flips and manage contractors so that you can make more money and have the freedom to do whatever the F you want. Today, I'm going to share with you how to stop going over budget on your flips by firing your GC with my awesome friend, Delante Desouza, also professional actor, so he has no problem acting like I know what I'm doing. Is that
Very
correct?
much. Yeah, very much so.
Like, Mike's really cool. I've taught him how to, he now, that's how you know he's a professional actor. Like that's super interesting. Like, great topic, Mike. That's what you do. You get a paid actor and he knows how to act like you're interesting. Awesome. Well, it's cool stuff, man. All right. We got a big subject today, man. This might be one of the biggest kind of debates between all the gurus and really just, I guess most people are on the GC side, but a lot of the people who are getting great results tend to be on the non-GC side. So let's get like popping into it and talk a little bit about it.
A lot of the calls that I have, we do the mastermind group and stuff like that, as I'm sure you guys know. A lot of the calls that I have, a lot of people are talking about this magical GC that they want to hire for their business. They want to flip houses, but they don't want to deal with like contractors. And the funny thing is, the people who talk about hiring the GC or people who have actually hired a GC are losing money in their flips. They're like, oh, this GC is like, cost me money and stuff like that. So it's kind of like on both sides of the fence, people are kind of like, oh, I wish it would be better if it was like this, or I wish it would be better if it was like that. First question I kind of wanted to get into with you, Mike, is like, how are GCs exactly causing investors to go over budget? Like, how have you seen them kind of be detrimental to a house flipping business?
Yeah, so I want to talk about this from both perspectives of being someone who used GCs for a few years and didn't have great results, hated the way things went. And eventually I just had to come to a point where I was going to decide whether I was going to keep flipping or keep going crazy and not making consistent income. It was when I decided to take control of my business is when I started to realize, as I deeply analyze like the dynamic of a GC, how things work and how important that role is that the GC plays, that I realized like I can't have a GC in my life anymore. Because see, a GC is making some really high level important decisions for your flips. They'll usually tell you how to design the house. They'll tell you what work needs to be done versus what work doesn't need to be done. But the issue is the GC, as much as we like to believe this, they're not really on our team because, see, we have very counterproductive, like different views, right? So their view is I need to make more money and your view is I need to make more money. So one view means we got to pay them less and the other view means we have to pay them more. So knowing that we don't really have the same interest at hand, the contractors are looking to make the most money. Most of the time, they're going to tell you, well, just go ahead and rip that out, right? And you're thinking, well, why not, right? It's your money. But it's like easy to say that. As flippers, we need to know when we can save things. We need someone who's on the team who's going to be like, nah, I think you could save that, right? And then honestly, even if they were pretty ethical and very someone who's very budget friendly, who was looking to save stuff for you, they're still not an expert at house flip. So one of the biggest, I would say, crocs of poop that I've been fed over the years and paid hundreds of thousands from gurus to be taught is that you can hire a GC and they're going to tell you all the right things to do and the best way to design your house and the best way to sell it and keep your budget down. I've never seen that to be the case because this is something that as the owners we have to have control over, right? I mean, we own this business, it's our money at risk. So think about it. You're taking all this money, you're signing on the dotted line to pay a hard money lender back, whatever it is. Let's say it's $100,000-$200,000. We're hoping that in order to stay safe, that some random GC that we've not got a long track record with is going to just do right by us. If you really think about that and you take and you simplify it, it really is almost there's a lack of common sense in it. Now, the reason I want to talk about the subject though, is that when I look at it from that standpoint and I step back and look at it, from the balcony down, I'm like, I was a complete idiot doing that for years. But the question I've always asked of myself is then why did I want to do it for so long? And I realized that it's just an industry teaching that you should hire a GC, right? Have you ever heard anything different than that from anyone other than me, obviously?
No, not at all, actually.
I still read stuff about it because it's an interesting topic, but every time I do, like me and Delante are breaking it down and we're like, there's a lot of holes in that advice, right? This advice is clearly not someone who's flipped a lot of houses and seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, actually, it's kind of funny that you asked that because it's almost the exact opposite advice. Like, I feel like 90% of like online forums and blogs and people out there are saying, you need a GC. Oh, there was that one dude on Facebook. I'm not going to like say the name or anything, but like there was that one dude that was like, you're going to lose money on your flip if you don't hire a GC. And I was like, okay, you must not know I'm working with Mike. probably.
Oh, he told you that when you were looking for contractors, and he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're working by yourself. Good luck, buddy." And we're like, "We've been doing now. Look, we were suckers, and we paid the GCs many years ago. But since Delante's known me, we've had a much better system." And that guy, by the way, happened to be a GC, so he obviously was talking from a different point of view, right? He believed in you need a GC to protect you. But at no level have I ever seen a GC who comes in and he's the white knight that's going to save you and make you, make a ton of money. Because at some point, even if you found a great GC, they don't have a lot of longevity, right? And honestly, it's an uphill battle to find a good GC that can even do a couple flips, but it's nearly an impossible equation to think that you'll make great relationship with that GC, get things going really well, and then they're just going to do that for another 10 years for you. I've never seen that happen with anyone. And sometimes it can take a year to 18 months to really get a GC relationship working. And by the time that it starts working, it often starts to fall apart around the same time. And so, I've heard of a few people, get like 2 years out of a GC successfully. And then the third year they worked with him was a train wreck because the GC was getting unhappy and realized they weren't making a lot of money and the house flipper was making all the money. So it really is just it's a bad equation essentially, right? It's a business model that makes no sense in general. So I've studied this subject for the last 5 or 6 years at very in depth, very, very deep with CFOs, with business coaches. I mean, I've taken this question and subject to so many higher level people to me because I really love the discussion around it because I have this natural wanting to like delegate, right? They teach us as business owners, oh, you need to delegate, right? You're not a contractor. You just give that to the contractor. But I realized that if I give one of the biggest profit centers in my business is getting the work done affordably, fast, and, keeping things on budget. Well, if I give that to a stranger or someone I just met or someone who really doesn't like want me to keep costs down because they make more money when they don't, then the reality is that like I'm at big risk. And if you think about it, house flipping, when you have a GC is one of the riskiest things you can do. Now, when you become your own GC, that's the secret. And that was the shift we made is when I realized as this being one of the most important things you can do. The second, probably, other important thing would be finding deals, but then finding great contractors is, equally as important as that. You're never going to be great at doing something like, a business that requires you to do construction if you don't understand construction at a basic level. So if you're new, the question everyone has, well, Mike, how do we learn that? Well, you learn it through doing the flip and through hiring a coach who can teach you and getting someone to help you. Because the reality is you're not going to learn construction until you've done it. Now, what a lot of people try to do on their first flips is they try to delegate and say like, you know what, I'm not going to deal with the construction, and then they let someone else handle it for them. And what I've heard from everyone, and this is a very common story, one of the most common stories me and Delante always hears is that like, contractor screwed me. And it's not really that the contractor screwed you, it's that you screwed you. You decide to get into this highly lucrative business of flipping houses, which means you have to do construction and not know anything about it. And I say that and with all the, sincerity, and please don't take it personal. I hope I don't offend anyone because I was in the same place. So I think I have the right to say it. I feel, I was the dummy who'd made that same choice, who thought I could get into this without knowing construction. And there was a point where I realized like, I'm going to learn construction and I'm going to master it. And not that I need to, I'm going to go out and swing a hammer and do work, but I totally need to know how cabinets are installed, how long it takes, and, what I should pay someone. And, how do I pay carpenters versus electricians, like what is the hourly pay that they should make? And then what would be the standardized pricing that would keep them in line? And once we start to understand this, we realize that a lot of contractors are very inefficient and very overpriced.
One of the other things that you have running in your business right now, Mike, that's kind of cool is that once you learn these systems of how to manage contractors and you became the GC, you just implemented a project manager to kind of handle that stuff on the day-to-day, but they're still using your systems and your processes.
Yeah. And look, I love eMyth. I've become an eMyth coach. I work with eMyth coach for many, many years. That's the person that's helped me kind of just build out the whole cracking the contractor code, the system that we use in my business and a lot of students use. I love this whole subject, but with that being said, I had to go do some stuff. eMyth always says that before you take and delegate any job out, that you need to do it at least a few times so you understand it. And that's their belief. And I totally agree with that belief. It's hard to get someone to do something you've never even like watched be done. So even if it's just sitting at the house for an hour or two and watching someone do electric or hooking stuff up and asking questions, you're uniquely in a better position if you do that than if you're like, hey, let me hire someone to deal with that. Like, I don't even want to think about that because I don't know it. Like, none of us know anything. When we're born, we don't know how to walk, but we figure it out, right? Most of us do. Like most of the people in the world figure out how to walk, but we're never like, well, if the baby keeps falling down, just tell them, don't worry about it. They're just not going to walk, right? We let them walk until they figure it out. And that's very much when we're doing construction. You got to get involved until you are good at construction, till you have a basic understanding. I've seen students, and I would say with myself, once I started thinking about learning construction, it took a couple flips for me to get really confident around the construction construction. And what I realize is that the job the contractor's doing and charging so much money to do is not that difficult of a job and often not done very well. So not only am I paying way more for the GC to do it, but I'm losing all the control of getting it done faster, getting it done cheaper, and really being able to like fire people when they're not doing their job, right? Because when you get in bed with a GC, if he hires some bad subcontractors that are taking too long, well, you can't really fire the GC for that. And the GC never wants to fire the subs. But when we hire people directly and a sub's not living up to what we say, we can easily get rid of them, right? Get rid of them and replace them with someone else because we have like really cool funnels that are going on. So we understand how to do everything ourselves. Now, the next little piece, and we're going to move on because I don't want to make this too long, but this is a really valuable piece of this. The next thing that's really important, like when you go out to look at a house to buy it, right? And you got to make a decision, like I'm going to put a contract on this house because Delante's fighting for it. My Green's fighting for it. Like all these people are trying to get this deal. So I need to know what to do with it, right? Well, do you think you have time to call your GC and him come out 2 days later and look at it and give you an estimate and then hope that he gets it right and that he doesn't make mistakes? You do not, right? You have to be able to walk through a house, look at what needs to be done, put it into a formula, and then do an estimate within like 30 minutes. And every student we work with for any period of time can do that very well. And we can do it very well. We are able to walk in and figure out how much it costs. And this is how we're able to be competitive when making offers because we know what the costs are going to be. While everyone else is relying on a contractor or relying on gut feeling. It's easy to beat people relying on their gut feeling or waiting on the contractor is the simplest one. You're still doing that. That's like 2011, by the way. So it's been time to move on for many, many years. Like seriously. And again, I say all these things, not trying to be mean to anyone that's doing this, but I've done it all in the past and I'm going to tell you it sucked and it does not work. And you're probably experiencing how bad it works and, by not getting any deals.
I guess just to summarize then, what do you think are some of the key points to why people who are starting out and flipping or people who are flipping right now should really start to make the transition if they haven't already into GCing their projects themselves versus hiring someone to do it for them? Even if they think the guy is good and they vouch for the guy, oh, this guy's great, why should they still GC the things themselves?
Well, I'll start with this disclaimer. If you're working with a GC and you've done a decent amount of flips and everything's going on time, on budget, going really well, and you're very happy, then delete this podcast and don't listen to it again. But I would say that that's not true for like 99 out of 100 people in my experience. So if you're one of the 99 that's actually not having great experience, like their contractor says they'll do it in 8 weeks and it takes 12 weeks, they tell you 70 and there's a bunch of change orders and ends up costing 80. Well, these are things you can't have in your business. So the number one reason why you need to GC is you need to have control and you have to have predictability. You have to know what it's going to cost. You need to know that it's $70K to do the work. And then you have to be able to deliver on it if you're going to be a successful house flipper who gets consistent results. Now, can most people do this? No. But for the few who've been like, you know what? I don't want to just be okay at house flipping. I really want to be great. I want to be called, come what I call a master house flipper. I want to learn every aspect of the business so I can have a complete advantage over my competitors. Well, those people are going to have the kind of life they want to live. Since I made the transition and understanding construction and getting control over it, I went from working like 70 hours a week down to 15, 20 hours a week, and my results are phenomenal compared to the results. Even when I put all those hours in back in the day doing it the wrong way, I still couldn't get great results. I was just getting good enough results to stay in the game but barely get by, right? Because one month I'd make money, the other I wouldn't. Some deals would do well, some would not. Now what I've gotten in return, and this is the number one reason I would say you need to be your own GC, is that I have control and I have consistency. So if you're lacking that right now in your business, then this is why you have to become your GC.
And it's funny that you said that word control because that's something that I've heard so many times people say. Like one of our mastermind students who just joined was talking about how he wants control back in his business, managing contractors and things like that. I don't know. I think it's funny how control is like the main factor, to managing your contractors.
Yeah, no pun intended.
Yeah,
exactly. But no, for sure, it's the main factor. And Delante is completely right. If you have control, you can run a business that's worth running. When you're out of control, nobody likes that. And when you have a lot of money at risk, the last thing you ever want to be is out of control, right? We have to have control. People just aren't willing to put in what it takes to have control and have consistency. And I don't know of a business that you can put so little into with so much rewards. But unfortunately, so many people, I also don't know of a business where so many people are not willing to invest in it. I see people, and this is a true statement, I've seen people put more into a 4-year education and some topic or some major that's never going to make them money and put just thousands of hours into that. And, but when it comes to house flipping, something that's even more complex than say, becoming a liberal arts major, right? I mean, even more complex. Like they're like, well, I just want to put a weekend into that, right? Like one weekend's good. Can we get that down into that? No, this is a learning. It's like I'm still learning 10 years into the game, but there's nothing out there I know that if with the right coach, the right system, and your ability to be persistent and consistently keep doing the right things, that in 3 to 6 months you could be actually making money, and in like a year to 18 months you could be doing really well. And like a couple years of studying and constantly staying as a learning and being learning based, like you could be crushing the game. And when you crush the game in house flipping, you make a lot more money than you should. Like this is a really, because so few people in the business are willing to put any time and effort into it. I think it attracts a lot of people to get rich quick. I mean, certainly that's probably why I decided I wanted to get into it. I thought it was like, get rich, make money overnight. Then, 6 years later, after reading like 900 books and never being able to get a deal, I realized, well, it's not get rich too quick. Like I was kind of slow. And then even after my first deal took 4 months and hundreds of hours of work, and I had to get in there, and I was like, so nothing went right. The contractor never did anything they said. Well, I realized, okay, I got a lot to learn. And I hired a coach at that point. I spent a year with him. Then after that, I did a year on my own. Then I hired another coach, and I'm 11 years in right now. And I've hired hundreds of thousands of dollars of coaches, paying people $30K and $20K. And it's been worth every penny because I'm learning to get better at it. And there's been a bunch that I've discovered on my own with all my experience. I'm still really excited about the fact that like right now, as we're building out our new system, we call cracking the contractor code, things are getting even better. Like we just figured out how to do a contractor funnel recently, and we were able to get like 90 some people to apply for one job that were well qualified, understood our pricing, and ready to work. And, out of that, I can say, well, at least 5 or 6 of them would have been hireable, right? We could actually use, but that's awesome to get 5 or 6 people who can do paint. Most people struggle to get one good painter, one good electrician, one good roofer. So once we did this, we realized we had cracked something, and now we had opened everything up. And it was like the light bulb came on when we seen it, right? I was like, this is so amazing. We can do whatever we need now. Contractors will never be an issue. Just the time to go find them and vet them out will be the only issue now, which once we understand how to do it, we can automate it. We can give it to a VA. We can start teaching others to do it for us, but we have to do it ourselves first. And so getting the result is the first thing. So good stuff, man. I mean, obviously, I think I've made the case of GC versus doing your own GC. And if you want to hire a GC, it's totally up to you. Please, let me know if you're having great results. I love to know your secret. If it's not working out for you like it isn't for most people, then, hey, you're in good company. We've all done the same thing. It's probably a time to make a shift, and start taking control of your business. So for everyone that's on here, first of all, Delante, I want to thank you for being on the show. I know you always come on. You got great questions. You're kind of the person that connects me to the community, because a lot of people ask you questions on Facebook and stuff. So your questions are always amazing. I sometimes forget the kind of questions you ask because I've been doing this so long. So I forget the beginner struggle or the newer investor struggle. So thank you for helping me out with that. I really appreciate it. Also hope to have you back again soon. I'm sure we will. You're on a lot of episodes because we work closely together. So big thanks also for all the listeners who are listening to the show. I know how valuable your time is. I know that, there's a lot of other options out there and some cool stuff. So thank you for doing that. And real quick, if you decide you want to have a coach help you, build out your systems, how to work with contractors, what to pay them, how to be your own GC, how to do anything in this business when it comes down to finding deals, making money, and getting consistent checks, feel free to reach out to me at mike@theflipfactor.net. That's my email. You also can come to my beautifully designed website, Delante put together, and that's going to be theflipfactor.net. Then we could have had .com, but Delante was good at everything else but getting the .com. Someone stole it from us. Now they're trying to sell it to us for a bunch of money, and we refuse to pay. So don't think we're hokey just because we have .net. We're just a principle based. We're not paying a bunch of money. When they stole that $13 website domain from us, we're not giving them $1,000 for it. So we're going to stay with .net. I hope you can find me with .net. So again, it's theflipfactor.net. We got some cool free training on there. We also have a lot of stuff, and you feel free to reach out if you want to work with us for coaching, because we love working with people. We keep a pretty small group, but we work on some very high level systems that are very real. They're exactly what we use in my business every day. I'm currently flipping about 40, 50 houses a year. Always have about 10 to 12 of them going on. Everything that I teach you on this podcast is exactly what I do in my business every day. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you, Delante. Everyone out there, I'm Michael Green. My work is done. Yours has just begun. Get out and make some money flipping houses, everyone. Have a great weekend. See you guys.